Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 204. I hope everybody's doing really, really well. We have a lot to talk about today. We're going to jump right into it, but we first a schedule of what we're going to discuss today. Ellie is going to give us an update on the Middle East. Dallas is going to give us an update on Kamala Harris's interview with Fox News. That's how we're going to start for the first few minutes. And then we're going to speak about Elon speed versus Elon time. We're going to talk about the Optimus video. Alexander is going to give us his observations about the video that Tesla AI received yesterday and how autonomous the robot really is. And then we're going to talk about Q3 earnings and say questions. And we're going to conclude with some administrative and logistical changes to Tesla Live. All right, let's start with Ellie. Ellie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's good to be here. Thanks for the space.
Good to have you on too. So there's a lot of news from the Middle East. What's the latest?
Well, so finally, after so much, like after a year and a week since October 7th, we were able to eliminate Sunyal, Yahya Sunyal.
Ellie, hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. YouTube is reporting a bit of an issue. Let me just fix that real quick, and then we're gonna restart there. All right, Ellie, you can go ahead and hustle time. Please let me know how is the audio now. Okay, good. Ellie, if you could please restart.
Yeah, sure. So Yahya Sinwar, the head of Hamas, was killed a few hours ago. It's huge news. It's very, very big because that means that basically the entire leadership of Hamas is dead. Hezbollah leadership is dead. That basically give us the opportunity to show everybody that if we want to eliminate someone, we can. But at the same time, right now, without leadership, we can rescue the hostages, return money. If some individuals would like to offer hostages with money, they're more than welcome to do it right now because they have no leadership. And B, Sinwar was the biggest opponent. We couldn't close a deal with Egypt, Qatar, or anybody just because of this guy. So that gives us a great opportunity to finish the war in Lebanon, in Gaza, and also with the help of Syria, Jordan, Qatar, some other countries. Everybody's celebrating, by the way. That gives us the opportunity to close and finish this chapter only after all the hostages will go back. But that's now. We can do it today.
Okay, Ellie. So I've seen Israel taking out leaders of, I believe, Hamas, but you're saying this one's Hezbollah, right? So this one is different. Is this an escalation of the geopolitical risk in the Middle East?
Quite the opposite. So let me just try to rewind for a second. Hezbollah leader Nasrallah was eliminated like a few weeks ago. Now, Hezbollah leader was under the ground, and we eliminated the guy via with aircraft, with bombers from the air. So that was very focused elimination. Today, what we did, it was very random. Soldiers, 2020, like 20 years old soldiers eliminated this guy out of nowhere. It was random. Now, that gives us the opportunity to bring peace to the Middle East, not to start a war, because all the guys from Iran are eliminated. So Nasrallah, Sinwar, and many others, basically proxy of Iran, they all dead. So that gives us the opportunity to bring peace to the Middle East. To the Middle East.
Okay, so in your estimate, the geopolitical risk, the risk of a World War III starting in the coming months or in the coming year, is now lower because Israel took out the leader.
That's
Okay,
correct.
I mean I don't know if do you think everyone would agree with that, Ellie?
I think that's the assumption. Obviously, we don't know, but that's the consensus. This is what everybody agrees on.
I don't know if everybody agrees on that. Dallas, what do you think? Do you think taking out the leader of this organization reduces the geopolitical risk in the area?
I kind of come at this from a third party angle because I'm not as involved, obviously, in it as Ellie is. But from my perspective, I'm not sure if this calms things down or kind of steps on an ant pile, metaphorically. I have concerns now that this will just escalate the issue further.
Yeah. If there's anyone else in the audience who is experienced in following the Middle East geopolitics, if they have any views on Israel versus Iran or Palestine, you're welcome to request to speak and share your views on the topic. Ellie, what do you think is next in the area?
So the next thing is to try to negotiate a deal. As I was saying, right now we are in the middle of conversation. Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Qatar, we all want to finish and we want to get out of Gaza. The biggest appointment, the biggest objection was eliminated. This is now the time to get out, to finish the war. I told you we just need the hostages back. Hamas has no leader. We can tell the guys in Gaza, we can get out. We can leave you in peace. We can help you to structure Gaza again. We can add, we can help, we can give money, water, food, and finally get out of there and never come back. That's what we want to achieve.
Okay. And what do you think is the next step for Iran here? Do you think they're going to come to the table to negotiate a peace deal?
No, I think they have no option. So in the past few weeks, some officials from Iran were moving around in the Middle East trying to basically campaign against us. But as I was saying, they have nobody. All the octopus arms got erupted, got eliminated. So now they are alone. Qatar was the biggest basically force that tried to help us to negotiate between us and our enemy. Iran has a weak hold right now in the Middle East. That's what we see. I'm not expert in what we don't see.
Okay, we have a new speaker on the board, Hans. Go ahead if you have any thoughts on the topic.
Yeah, I have a question mostly for Captain Eli. Like, what do you see as is it an exit strategy? Is it yeah, I get the hostages are like number one priority, but after that, how do you avoid the aftermath, I guess, of new terrorists being recruited and being using this last year or so as fuel for new terrorists, whether that be Hamas or somebody else in that area? It's such a hard thing to solve. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just to be clear, we're not talking about closing the chapter between the problem that we have with the Palestinians. That will stay forever. But right now we have foot on the ground. We eliminated all the tunnels, all the animation, all the leadership. We have the great opportunity to basically start and build something, to be part of the process of basically getting together Gaza and Israel and build something. Keep in mind, a lot of people there want just normal life, but they were terrorized by people and basically forced them into a war that nobody wanted. Now we can actually bring peace to this area. Keep in mind, if we can beat Iran, we can do it.
Okay. Dallas, let's change our attention to the election that's coming up. Kamala Harris was on Fox News, gave an interview. If you could summarize the key points of the interview for us, let's start there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for having me up. I kind of broke it down into 5 key points. It was a pretty short interview. I mean, 20 something minutes long. but they got a lot in that time, and it kind of came down to immigration to start off right out of the gate. Dwelled after that into criminal justice enforcement. Then moved into economic housing reform. She mentioned some of her policies that she's been talking about in housing reform. Then they moved into, touching on Trump's leadership and his rhetoric as a whole. And then lastly, they closed out with kind of some foreign policy and the Middle East conversation. So those are the main points I touched on.
Let's start with the last point.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? Her views on what's happening in the Middle East. Since we just spoke with Ellie as well, maybe you can tie it there.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have some notes on that one here. I just kind of mentioned that she prioritizes preventing Iran from becoming a nuclear superpower, and that's a key issue for her. And then, right after she mentioned that, Brett obviously brought up the point that her administration is allowing hundreds of billions of dollars to flow into what he calls a regime. So, Iran, and funding a country of that magnitude and kind of erratic nature at the moment can be a little detrimental. So that was the point Brett made to her comment on Iran.
Okay. And what do you think was the most important thing that came out of the interview?
Yeah, I mean, I would probably say the beginning, which was all about immigration. I mean, that seems to be one of the most important things on voters' minds at the moment. It's been something that she's faced a lot of backlash over. And, kind of my notes on that, she highlighted that her administration has, basically been handed a broken immigration system. And to be fair, she also kind of gave some credit to Trump in a way and saying it's been broken for a long time, which I thought that was kind of admirable of her to say that. And then Brett also obviously mentioned that the Remain in Mexico policy that she got, or that I keep saying she, but really her administration, Biden's administration got rid of, is the reason that there were a couple people that they mentioned during the meeting were killed in the U.S. tragically, and she put out her condolences for those individuals. But I just kind of felt like the immigration portion as a whole was something that they really, really touched on a lot, and it gave a lot of good sound bites that we've all seen on X, obviously. And she really harped on the fact that she blames a lot of this on Trump. She goes back to the immigration bill that he shot down during his presidency, and she basically says the reason that we're in the situation we're in at the moment and how bad it is at the moment is because of that bill that was shot down. And I mean, I guess you could say that is in a way somehow true, because that bill did directly correlate with financial aid for the border, which would allow for more agents to be hired and more judges and stuff like that. But if you really dig deep into that bill, there's a lot more going on in there. There was funding for Ukraine, there was funding for Taiwan. So, like politicians do, they pack these bills full of things that aren't exactly on the headline. And that can be somewhat dangerous, because then you have to prioritize the well-being of other nations to the same effect of prioritizing the importance of your own borders. And those two things should never be in the same bill. And that's obviously why Trump didn't pass that bill. So,
okay, let's break it up a little bit. I don't want this to turn into like a 10-minute lecture where people lose attention. So we want a more interactive discussion. Thank you very much for sharing your notes. Let's go to Bull 2035.
Hey, just by way of clarification, the bill was not during Trump's administration. The bill was after, when Biden was president, and the bill was created and written by Senator Langford from Oklahoma, who was one of the most conservative Republicans in the Senate. And then Trump essentially killed the bill. Dallas, I think, explains why Trump said he killed the bill, but that happened when Biden was president.
that's correct.
Okay. So I asked my speakers this morning or last night, I said, what is your expertise area? In which topic I must go to you for your opinion, for your take? And Dallas said US politics. And he also said FSA supervised, but that's obviously very crowded space. And there are people in the speaker board with higher technical expertise. So US politics is now Dallas. Mr. US politics. The director of US politics is Dallas. And I'm guessing Bull 2035 hopefully will jump on every now and then. And we're going to expect Dallas to educate us in the coming weeks on the topic. All right, Dallas?
Yeah, then that sounds great. And, in that kind of format there, I was just trying to really read off the notes I wrote down. I'm a little better at just saying how I feel about matters like that. And I also try to keep my personal political beliefs out of when I discuss, interviews like that. At the end of the day, I'm always out front on the fact that I have historically always voted for the Republican candidate. That's where I tend to lean. Everyone leans a direction, but I also try to focus on being fair to both candidates. So that's just something I'm going to try to focus on down the
Yeah,
road.
that's fine. I mean, that's what I expect from all speakers, to be as unbiased as possible, and then also say their opinions and takes as well on top of that. But first, obviously, it matters to be unbiased, lay out the facts as they are. Don't say anything false. Yeah, this is gonna be an ongoing process. We're gonna have 20, 30-minute sections led by other people, and I'm gonna rely on my speakers to do that. All right. So if you have any questions, comments, debates you want to take on Dallas, Dallas is open for coffee bets when it comes to US elections from now on. Uzi.
Yeah, talking about coffee bets, after the interview, Poly Market has Trump at 62%, which is quite high compared to polling. My assessment of that interview was that it was Kamala's. Kamala didn't do many leading up to this, so to have her first hard interview, which Trump's had his fair share and way more, to be honest. It was good to see that at least she could stand up to some scrutiny, but she did get quite aggressive or frustrated. So she wasn't as joyous as she sort of framed herself to be, and that's a tough position to act. Is when you frame yourself as joyous and then you're in a tough situation, there will be a blowback. I think for the most part, just getting through it was good enough. The people that support her will continue to support her on the basis that Trump is bad. And I was one of those people for a while, but with the way the world has gone the past 3 to 5 years, geopolitically, I've shifted right.
Thank you, Uzi. Wessex.
Hey, Yaman, what's happening? Yeah, whenever I see things like this, at least for the last few years, maybe 5 or 10 years, I try to follow the strategy of the debate. Like, for example, Brett Baer would ask a question very specific about the number of people that have crossed the border illegally during her time in office. And then she would not answer the question specifically, but would instead use it as a talking point to say, the border. So the border bill was shot down, et cetera, et cetera. So I just thought yesterday was a lot of tactical debate skill that was happening. What I'm wondering is, it seemed obvious to me she dodged every question in terms of specifics. And by the way, she's not alone. These other politicians, in fact, they all do this using that technique, but she did dodge every single question. And I didn't know, I was just curious if the independent voter or someone that hasn't made up their mind yet, if it was real obvious to them or not so much, as if she was answering the question. So that's what was going on in my mind. That's a lot of what I was observing.
Dallas.
Yeah, I noted that too. I mean, obviously, I can't speak to your independent voter point, but one of the first things I noticed is right off the bat, she's going into hostile territory. I got to give her credit, right? I mean, for Trump to go do an interview on CNN would be the same equivalent of this. So, proud, kudos to her for going on to Fox News and being interviewed. I think it was the hardest interview environment she's had to deal with thus far. The questions were to the point. He interrupted her at times. He was asking her very, very specific questions, just like you noted, and she was using them as talking points. The frustrating part to me, though, watching this was she would say things like, "Well, let's get straight to the point, and let's not beat around the bush. Let me be perfectly clear." Well, nothing she really said was all that clear. They brought up a video of her condoning transgender surgeries for illegal immigrants and prisoners, and her answer to that was, "Well, that was a law while Trump was president." So it's back and forth, right? It's kind of the nature of these kind of interviews.
Okay. Bull 2035.
Yeah, I like Brett Baer usually. I used to watch Brit Hume before Brett on Fox News back 15 years ago, and I like Neil Cavuto a lot on Fox News. And I was disappointed with Brett Baer because he did a lot of arguing and he's speaking over her. All he had to do was ask a question. If she didn't answer it, follow up respectfully. And I think it's going to have a impact that's positive for a lot of people because they're going to see Harris as a fighter.
Okay, great. I want to understand each. So clearly, we have some very knowledgeable people on the matter. I want to understand people's expertise, kind of background experience with U.S. politics, geopolitics, and also maybe their bias a little bit. So Dallas, for example, you mentioned you only voted Republican in the past. Is that correct?
Yeah, historically, and I'm only 28 years old, so I haven't really voted in all that many elections, but I try to give these candidates the best chance I can to read through all their policy.
Okay, so you voted in two general elections so far, and maybe some local elections as well. Do you vote in local elections?
I do. I think voting is something you have to do if you want to complain. So that's my stand.
Okay, good. Let's go to Bull 2035. Bull 2035, what's your experience with U.S. politics?
Oh, I have a lot of experience. I look, I'm not trying to get my identity out there, but I've been involved with politics since the late 90s. I have been asked to run by the Republicans for office before. I've run organizations that are political, that are conservative. I consider myself an independent.
Okay, very good. Let's go to West 6.
And one of the speakers a moment ago really thought Brett Baer was interrupting Kamala. And I was wondering if people...
West, hold on just one second. What's your experience with U.S. politics?
Been passionate about it for a long time, a little bit less so, as time goes on. I've also helped campaign for a local mayor, and I've been on a board in our local city. That's about it.
Okay, and are these conservative or Democrat?
Yeah.
Okay, more conservative side.
Correct.
Okay, so we have a bit of a unbalanced board then. Uzi?
Yeah, I've always been independent, like registered. I was a Democrat. My first election, I'd say, was I think that was for Joe Biden, and I went to the polls for the prior one too, in support of Hillary Clinton, and then I became disillusioned when I went to college, and it was this woke hellhole where everyone was somewhat racist in a anti-racist fashion, and I became more moderate or conservative.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I mean, in the presence of a more kind of one side or the other kind of board, I try to maybe play devil's advocate sometimes. So I really encourage speakers to be as unbiased as possible. At the very least, even if you disagree, try to state the other side's views in it from an unbiased perspective. I would really appreciate that going forward. Let's go to West 6 and Bull 2035.
Yeah, I just wanted to add the speaker a moment ago that thought Brett Baer was interrupting and appeared to be rude. Kamala was using a technique called filibustering, meaning she was trying to talk as much as she could to run out the clock. They only had a certain period of time to work with. And Brett was aware of that, of course. And so he was trying to get in while he could. So that was what was happening. And so it's interesting how the appearance from one person might be that Brett was rude. And on the other hand, at least it was my observation that Kamala was just continuing with the longest possible answers that she could.
Okay, great. Good insight. Thank you, Wessex. Bull 2035.
Yeah, if you watch the lady on Sunday morning CBS, she does a fantastic job. When people do that, she just comes back at them and says, "So you're just not going to answer the question?" And then it makes the politician look terrible. And I think that would have been a better technique. And just to be fair, Yaman, I was a Mitt Romney supporter. I'm a John McCain supporter. That's the wing that I was in. So I'm not a Trump supporter.
That's good information. Thank you very much. That's good to know. Dallas.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on something before we move topics on the media reporting side of this interview. Worldwide, I did a little bit of research, and some news outlets out of Australia were calling it a dumpster fire for the Kamala campaign, which I felt was interesting because. Sorry, I got.
Can you guys hear Dallas?
I got muted there for a second. I'm sorry. The point I was trying to make was Elon shared an interesting screenshot. If you go on Google and you type in this interview, right, people are trying to watch the interview. It shows the top 8 news articles.
Dallas, sorry, there's a bug in the space. It's the joy of X Spaces.
I think
Yeah.
Dallas was going to say about the testy, the word testy showing up everywhere.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
I was
fine.
mentioning
Thank you
that.
very much. We're moving on. Dallas, I want to ask you one more thing about this. Was there any segment of the interview discussing technology, AI, for example?
No, there was not. And yes, correct. I was just mentioning the word testy or whatever this, or fiery. It was fiery. Sorry, which only lends to the fact that all these news articles are coming from one source. I mean, that's a weird word for them all to be using. So.
All right, Uzi.
Yeah, I think the space is glitching. I keep having to raise my hand. I wanted to also play, contrarian and say, if you're not on X, and you, I guess, take the mainstream media at face value, and then you watch this interview, you probably will think Kamala is very skilled rhetorically, and that this was, he was pitted against the, right wing Fox News. So it's really dependent on the interpreter, and the way that their news feed is feeding them information. Even people on X might have a more liberal feed too. So not every, this is sort of an echo chamber.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. This is a great conversation. By the way, if you're having issues with X, you can go listen on YouTube. There doesn't seem to be any issues over there. We have a very high attendance, viewership, and Hustletown is monitoring the quality of audio over there too. So, yeah, YouTube is doing fine. X needs to get its act together. Ellie?
Before we're leaving this whole geopolitics subject, I wanted to see if it's possible to ask the speaker board here what they think about the B-2 bombers that attack Yemen today.
Dallas. Dallas is having real issues here. All right, Ellie, would you like to say a couple of sentences on that? All right. Wow.
What do you,
Amazing. All right. Why don't we just sit here in silence for like 10 seconds, wait for Elon to figure out the backing piping of the X space so that we can continue with our job here. All right. Elon, come on. Come on, Elon. Help us out here. I'm going to use this opportunity to read our audio ads and then we're going to switch topics. Everybody stay on mute. Perfect. I can actually make that happen because I got a mute everyone button. It's amazing. May I look at this? Everybody migrating from X to YouTube because of the issues that X is having. Truth T in YouTube live chat says, excellent political analysis. So Dallas, Ellie, and everyone else who joined the conversation in the last 30 minutes, thank you so much. I'm learning a lot, and this is going to be an ongoing segment. Maybe we can do this like once a week, or when there is maybe on Thursdays, or when there is some news that we need to cover, we can have Ellie's corner or Dallas's corner, something along those lines. Very good. Thank you very much. I really appreciate you guys doing this. All right. And while I read these audio ads from our sponsors, if you could please, through the link at the top of our screens, hop over to YouTube and give that a like, I would appreciate it. It really helps us grow and bring these discussions to you, free and open for everybody on X. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycled electronics. Looking to upgrade your tech? Want to turn your old devices into hard cash? With over 100 stores nationwide, Paymore makes it easy and secure. They believe that the best technology doesn't have to come at the cost of our planet or your wallet. At Paymore, you can buy the latest gadgets at your greatest prices, sell or trade your used electronics for cash or store credit, recycle old or broken devices responsibly, helping to reduce electronic waste. Join the Paymore revolution today. Visit one of their stores near you or check them out online at paymore.com. And Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. At Joa, you'll find innovative charging solutions, stylish interior upgrades, protective gear, and cutting-edge tech add-ons. And here's an exclusive offer for Tesla Live listeners. Use the promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. So why wait? Visit jova.com, jova-life.com today to explore their full range of products and take your Tesla experience to the next level. Thank you, Pay More and Jova, for supporting Tesla Live and Tesla community. Great. Let's see if Elon got his act together. Let's do an audio check. Sound check. Everybody go. Go, no go. Uzi?
Hello.
Ellie?
Wait, were you asking us to speak or just
Yeah,
say it
Just,
sounds good?
okay, Dallas, sound check, Uzi. Come on. Get with the program.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, sing for us.
What is going on, guys? Come on. We're about to launch a rocket. You can't just go like sing for us. We're doing go, no go. We're 6.
Yeah, sounds great.
Team Flexity.
Hey,
Great. Okay. The rocket failed. We went way over T -0. Real Zertek in YouTube live chat says, breaking news, Elon Musk is canceling Norwegian oil fund dinner with Nikolai Tangen. And the reason is it would be difficult and expensive to attend. That's really funny. This is the guy who voted against his comp plan, right? That's really funny. Thank you, Real Zertek. Cool. All right. Let's move on to the next section. Alexander is going to, as our director of robotics, Alexander is going to present to us his take from Tesla AI's video of Optimus. Alexander, what were your observations from the video?
Yeah, so the Tesla Optimus account shared a 1.5-minute video today on Optimus, obviously. So the video starts up showing Optimus walking. Not that impressive. We've seen that before many times by now. They had some written comments on the bottom left corner that said Optimus walk has become more confident. And we kind of knew that already. Otherwise, they wouldn't let Optimus walk among people at the 1010 event, right? Then the video continues, more walking, and it says it can now explore unseen spaces autonomously. This is a bit more impressive, very important capability, because you don't want to map everything in order to use it. Otherwise, it would be a bit like Wamo, and we can't have that, can we? After this, it walks past some people hanging out at the 4680 line. Nice to see that going. Avoiding people and obstacles using neural nets running on its computer, all while capturing visual cues specific to its environment. So cues specific to its environment is basically door, box, table, and so on. This is not the same thing as true object recognition, in my opinion. It's more like being aware that there's something that you shouldn't walk into, kind of like we humans navigate the world. We don't need to know that what an object is to avoid it. Then they show us some 3D map, and it says, together, multiple bots build and shared understanding of their surroundings. And that makes sense. A pre-mapped area is less intensive to process, I guess. Then they show us some really cool stuff. The charger hanging on the wall. And Optimus leans against the wall and docks with the charger. I kind of hope they put the charge port in the ass for the memes, but I guess we can't have everything, can we? After this, we see Optimus picking up a tray of 4680 cells. And according to the comments, it weighs 11 kilograms. Note that they are using metric units. Blink, blink. For industry, this is pretty decent. However, we don't know how far from its body it can hold this weight without falling over. Reach is pretty important if you want to work inside factory, obviously. Then we see something new again. Optimus walk up a stair. However, through most of the video, it says autonomously on the upper right. But during this segment, it didn't show autonomously. So I guess this was like pre-programmed in some kind of way. In the end, they show us Optimus behind the counter, handing bags and drinks to people on request, just like we saw on the 1010 event. But I'm pretty sure the 1010 event was mostly teleoperated, including this segment. But it's nice to see that they actually have this capability to do it autonomously. Overall, I think Optimus is getting more useful every day, and they have come a long way since we saw Optimus for the first time 2 years ago.
Okay, very good. We have hands, we have new speakers. We're going to dig into this some more, Alexander. I hope you're ready for questioning, interrogation, shall I say. So did this video change your opinion at all about the capability of Optimus after so you had a view after the Robotaxi Unveil event, the We Robot event. Did the video that Tesla shared this morning change your view at all about where the Optimus program is?
Yeah, because I thought mostly the cool stuff they were showing us before was mostly teleoperated, and they didn't have this capability to like walk around within an area that is not pre-mapped is pretty impressive to navigate the world. Yeah, so that part was really impressive, and also handing out the bags and stuff that I can actually do this autonomously. However, I don't think it's like they can't do this 99.9% of the time successfully. Otherwise, they would have used this for the 1010 event to do it autonomously, I guess.
Okay, so you're telling me that even though Tesla can demonstrate this capability in a recorded video, because the reliability is not super high at this time, they probably use teleoperation at the 1010 We Robot event. Is that a fair summary of your position?
Yes.
Okay. Now, can I ask you before I go to the hands, what gives you so much confidence that Tesla actually used teleoperation and the robots were not actually autonomous at the event?
Because you could see those slight movements that humans do, because we are not like standing 100% still. We are actually moving our arms a bit, and that was exactly what Optimus did at the 1010 event. So that I don't think you would program this in. So that was human movement for sure.
Okay, thank you, Alexander. That was a great summary, and I appreciate you answering questions. You are now our director of robotics. The other director, called Machine, is fired for lack of attendance. And maybe when he comes back here, we can break the news to him. So let's go to these
Do I get a
hands.
raise?
Yeah, exactly. I will double your pay. Neil, go ahead.
Yeah, so just wanted to ask, given the 1010 event, would this board, I'm interested in whether people believe the humanoid robot is a hardware problem or a software problem. I believe it is a software problem. I have for a while, but I think this event further reinforces that. So that's my question. Is this just a software problem at this point?
Alexander.
It is kind of both, but mostly a software problem. Obviously, you need a hardware to run the models needed to do everything that Optimus is set to do. So, but mostly I would say it's a software problem.
Ellie.
I just gotta say, for me, it feels like we just finished the area where they were working on the engineering problem. And at the 1010 event, basically, they showed us that they finished with the engineering, and now we're gonna see some AI improvements within the next few months.
Alexander, do you agree with Ellie's position that Tesla finished the hardware side of things and now it's all about software?
Yeah, maybe. this might not be the final version of Optimus, because when you're gonna go into production and produce a lot of units, you have to optimize the parts for production. So there might be slight changes, but yeah, I think mostly they are finished with the hardware.
Okay, so Alexander believes mostly Tesla's finished. I don't know. I mean, there's always challenges ahead. There's always improvements to be made. As the robot is not even in production yet. So they're going to do some testing at Tesla's factories, and the hardware will continue to improve. But yeah, thank you very much, Ali, for the question, and Alexander for that position. Let's go to Hustle Town. We're going to focus on this topic for another 10 minutes or so. Hustle Town, go ahead.
I was just curious, what would Alexander deem the next step in the hardware of Optimus? Is there anything that you're looking forward to seeing them showcase in particular?
Yeah, true object recognition. So you can't just go for like, this is a box, I can't walk into it. You need to understand what parts you can actually move and what you can pick up. And I don't think they have that capability yet. Maybe they can train on certain forms on objects, but they can't, like, in a general way, understand all objects in the world.
Thank you. Neil.
Yeah, and I just wanted to quickly qualify my statement about a hardware problem, because I think inefficient software drives heavy hardware, right? If the software is truly mature and effective, it can use the effective hardware. So yeah, so the software could have a hardware problem, right? That's possibly true. It could drain too much power, do things for the bot. But yeah, I think ultimately that's a temporary thing. And so just comment is, do you think, from a bot perspective, I think the bot hardware is good enough for, to be released. So is it likely that the software has a hardware problem, if you know what I mean? Thanks.
Alexander?
Yeah, you can't know that the hardware is ready for release because you don't know the wear and tear on all the parts. So they will find out that maybe, we can't use this kind of sealant because the seal actually breaks and dirt and schmutz comes into the parts. So I don't know about that part. About the software question, I mean, if you look at early ChatGPT models, there were like 18 billion parameters, and you look at GPT 4.0 is like 200 billion parameters. So obviously performance, if you want greater performance, you want bigger models. So the hardware maybe needs, you maybe need to increase the compute power.
Wessex.
Yeah, I would echo what everybody's saying. It now is a software problem, but initially you had to get the hardware right. They're on the third version right now. And the reason why you got to get the hardware right first is because you can change software just on the fly. But once you kind of lock in the build for the robot, you don't have a lot. It's not easy to make a lot of changes after that. So after 3 iterations, they learned a lot, and they'll certainly learn more. The question is, what do they not know right now that might create version 4, and et cetera down the road.
Thank you, Wessex. And we have a insightful reply from Brian McCormack, a good supporter of the space, who says, hardware is not final. New hand coming. It's both hardware and software problems still. Thank you, Brian. Let's go to Ellie.
I feel like we can agree that basically the engineering stage, the hardware stage, will never be finished. Just like Model 3 will always be refreshed, or maybe Model Y, whatever. What I want to bring up to the table right now is the fact that it will be charged at the moment without wireless charging. So basically some connector. That's what we saw. Do you think, Alexander, that's a big, is it significant if it will be wireless or just connecting via cable or the plug-in, whatever we saw?
Alexander?
The charger?
Yeah, do you think wireless charging will play a role with the Optimus program, just like with the vehicle program?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe if it stands working at same spot, you might have standing on a charging plate might make sense actually, because then you don't have downtime while the Optimus is charging. But I mean, if it's in the same spot, you could like plug it in, or have it in the charge station, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting point here is that wired charging will probably be more efficient than wireless charging, even if slightly. So does it make sense to introduce wireless charging for Optimus? I guess it would have to be through the feet, right? I don't know. That's an open question. We can have that debate on an ongoing basis. Tesla obviously introduced wired charging with Optimus going back, leaning back onto a charger onto the wall. So it sounds like they're going to wire charging with for now. Let's go to Dallas, then Neil.
Yeah, I don't see what difference it makes because it's a humanoid robot, right? So at the end of the day, if it's a wire or not, it's just going to plug itself in. So I don't know that any of that matters.
Yeah, and it also
Okay.
has to stand still, like both when it's charging, but cable and wireless.
Okay, great. Neil?
Yeah, I don't know how we train this, but I'm just wondering why we don't have more arms. 2 arms are great. I wished for a third. Maybe I'd like to have 4, but I think a 4-armed robot would be much more effective. So I'm just wondering, it's humanoid, not human. So I'd like to get this board's thought on when the next, is adding arms the next thing?
Alexander?
Then you will need a bigger battery pack, and it will be more energy, consume more energy.
Very good. Very good, insightful. Alexander, you're doing so well. Very good. Wessex?
Yeah, but also add cost. It's probably diminishing returns to add a third arm and then a fourth arm, et cetera. So I think cost would be a factor.
Good. Ellie?
I feel like also the acceptance from the audience, from the people, from the the kids and adults. That's important. The visualization.
Absolutely. I agree, Ellie. That's a great point too, because I actually, as we discussed in AI amateurs, there's a resistance from the society in accepting AI and robotics in general. And, a robot with 3-4 hands would be a bit more scary than 2 hands, I guess. Neil? And now Wessex.
I would just like to say quickly, I think it's more fear than practicality because I believe if we deep dive on the practicality of a 4-armed humanoid, it may just be better than us. So I guess we can take a coffee bet on that.
Justin Strach says in YouTube live chat, a 4-armed humanoid would play the drums super wicked. And he says it could come with a backpack and a range extender. Wessex.
I really think there will be other form factors down the road, not necessarily 3 arms, but perhaps something that's industry specific, maybe something super large for carrying items that this particular form factor can't carry. Kind of just like the automobile business has cars and vans, different things like that. I can see that happening.
Very good. And Hustletown has a great insight that he dropped in YouTube live chat too. Hustletown, would you like to repeat it on X?
Sure. I just wanted to say we're going to leave all the aftermarket software and hardware to the individuals that are going to customize this. We're going to treat them like stormtroopers, not stormtroopers, but the clone troopers, and then afterwards we're going to have them be specific and specialized.
Very good. Alexander.
Yeah, it might actually make sense to make a bigger Optimus that can lift higher weights and stuff. So maybe we will see a big mutus, enormous, something like that.
Yeah, maybe down the line. All right. Dallas.
Yeah, real quick, Alexander, I have a question for you. I know a lot of people were harping on the fact that they were, teleoperated or whatever. But I think there's a market there, right? So long term, if these robots are super capable, as we're already seeing, don't you think there's going to be a market for people who want to use them as some sort of, real world avatar situation where they stay home and they're interacting with the world through an Optimus, controlling it themselves?
Surrogates. Have you seen the movie? Depressing, but yeah, I mean, for the work I do, or for the company that I work for, we have like service guys running around the whole of Sweden to service machines and stuff. And sometimes they can sit in like 4 hours, 5 hours a day in a car. If you could like plug into an Optimus and do the work from the office, I mean, that would be great.
We have another great insight in YouTube live chat from Truth to a T, another great supporter of Tesla Live, who says, 4 arms add weight and less balance. So it really complicates things if you have these, Tesla's going for high volume, low cost due to high volume. So they want to come up with a design that they can scale. And I think Hustletown's point about leaving these extra appendages to the aftermarket crowd makes a lot of sense too. Great. Uzi.
You stole my whole flow, but yeah, I was gonna say, 4 arms is a lot more complexity. More parts makes the manufacturing scale much harder. Maybe making a bigger Optimus makes more sense than 4 arms. As for teleoperation, yeah, you might want to have Optimus have precision hand movements, like in a scenario like diffusing an explosive. But there's definitely a market for it. It's just will Tesla cater to that market? I think an autonomous Optimus is much more of the ideal approach.
Thank you, Uzi. We're going to spend 5 more minutes and then we're going to move on this topic. Oh, we have our other robotics expert in the crowd. Maybe he can come up. His request to speak. Look at this. All right. Let's break him the news real quick about Alexander. Machine, welcome. I got some news for you. Are you sitting down?
Yes.
Okay. Alexander is our director of robotics from now on. And you've been demoted to a lower position. Actually, no. I'm promoting you to VP of robotics. You're now the VP of robotics and AI. So you are the Ashokala Swami of this space. And you can come in every now and then when it fits your schedule and supervise. But Alexander will be our daily point person about robotics. How do you feel about this promotion?
Well, thank you very much. And I feel like also for Alexander, it's well deserved because there's really not much difference between a Swede and a robot.
I agree.
And in other news, if you heard that the terrorist leader of Hamas was killed, and rumor has it, what happened was he wasn't hiding in the tunnels. He came out because he saw that the IDF was using Tesla Optimus as decoys. He saw the Optimus out there and realized they were so weak and not useful that he thought he could come out.
Yeah. All right. I need to interrupt here because I was grading yesterday's Space Machine. You're going to love this one. A lot of people got A's and you got a B+. And the reason is because even though your humor is appreciated, ChatGPT says, it went on for a long time. And it also gave me feedback that I should be interrupting you even quicker.
You know, who do you think's funnier, ChatGPT or me? So
yeah, you are.
Why would I use ChatGPT to evaluate humor?
Please don't insult our AI overlords. Let's get your view while they're here, Mr. VP of Robotics. What is your view on the video that Tesla AI released this morning about Optimus?
I haven't really looked. I just saw some robots walking around and going up steps. Is that it?
Yeah. And this is why you're the VP. You're the boss that plays golf after your day, and while Alexander does all the heavy lifting.
I kind of said in some tweets, and if you remember, literally 2 years ago when I first started talking on these disasters of spaces, when they were called Tesla will triple, and then the stock went down 75%. I don't know if you remember that time. But I said right then, I'm like, the dynamic balance is the hardest task. And if they show things like walking, that's good progress. Sure, going upstairs is even more progress, but they're making progress just like FSD made progress with V10 and V11, where it's useful because you need to explore the space and understand your failure modes and your overall, both hardware and software, what you need to build out better. But ultimately, it's still not full neural net control. And that is important long term if you want to have a robot that can handle all the wide possibilities of dynamic balancing tasks and responding to various perturbations or things that you don't expect. I don't see that yet. And I was mentioning that because the tweets by Milan was yet again singling out some of the upper body tasks for neural nets and conspicuously not mentioning balancing as being neural net driven and walking
Okay.
even.
Thank you very much for your long-winded answer. I think people got the gist of it, what you're trying to say. And your mom, actually, this is a mean woman, is trying to defend you on YouTube live chat. ChatGPT said no such thing, but the fact is actually did. We have a lot of hands. Let's move on to other speakers. Mission, thank you very much for stopping by. I appreciate your views as always. Good to have you in the space. Let's go to Sean. Sean?
Sorry, I was replying to something else. Very awesome talks on the robot, in my opinion. As Machine was saying, the balancing is actually probably one of the hardest things to get right, and that's why you wouldn't want to add extra appendages up top. If you really wanted to get into something, you might look into something more like a horse design or spider, where you can actually use it to like walk over something and lift up. So it's like humanoid, I think, is the first objective in getting that to work right. But then you have knowledge of all the parts to be able to do other things, in my opinion.
Thank you, Sean. And we have a couple of other great insights in YouTube live chat. For example, Keeney Sprong, who's a member of TSLA, who says, you don't really see six-armed or six-legged creatures in nature. There's probably some wisdom in the evolution there. Thank you, Keenan. And Darius says, it's hard to find humans with 4 arms for training. That's also very good. Man, this has been an incredible discussion in the last 20 minutes or so, talking about Optimus. Great insights from the speaker board as well as YouTube live chat. Let's go to Alexander.
I have 3 legs.
Okay. See, Machine, see what you're doing.
He's
The
still
director's
really
taking
stole my
on.
joke because I was going to say the same thing.
Oh my gosh, you guys are on. It's amazing. This book, director VP relationship is get a room. Wessex.
Yeah, probably the greatest interest for me as a Tesla investor in Optimus is in training, and specifically using teleoperation to train the robot. We've seen videos of it picking up bottles and moving a bottle over here, picking up another one. But the problem is it's a dependency. We're not able to scale the software as long as we have to mimic engineers' behavior. In other words, maybe you have to have an engineer wash a car now. Maybe they have to flip an omelet now. Maybe they wash or mow the lawn now. So the next step in training using AI to be able to train without teleoperations is really the key. And I have no evidence that this is happening yet. I have no idea, but that's the greatest area of importance to me.
Thank you, Hustletown.
I wanted to ask the VP what he thought would be the next step of evolution for the hardware of Optimus. What would wow him? What would floor him that they presented?
Our VP of robotics has gone to play golf. So now, director, please answer the question.
Can you repeat the question, please?
The director
Oh my
already basically
goodness.
asked. I've already asked the director. I wanted to know with the VP, but if he's out there, knocking around golf balls, so be it.
Alexander, the question was, what is the next step in the hardware evolution of Optimus, you think?
That's a really tough question. Probably more compute would be my best guess.
So, Alexander, in addition to the earlier discussion we had on the next version of the hand, Alexander says maybe more inference compute on board on Optimus. Thank you, Alexander. Neil.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, like, if you think about bots, and again, just to go back to appendages, because I started this mess, but ultimately, I want a spider. A spider is better to replace your roof than a humanoid. Ultimately, build the bot to the task, right? That's very interesting, right? Build the bot to the task. That's my comment.
Thank you, Neil. Kevin King, we have a debate in YouTube live chat right now. To the response by Keenan, Kevin King responds and says, insects are the most diverse group of animals on Earth, and every known insect species has 6 legs. Wow, there's some sparring going on. It's getting testy in YouTube live chat. Team Flex.
This topic is, obviously you could tailor the robot to every specific task in the world. And maybe that will happen in the future when you have 3D printing, you have a lot of time, you have AGI, but today the goal is to make something that works everywhere. It is to make something that is economical. You can't have a robot costing $100,000. You need it for 20,000. And to have it for 20,000, you need it to be efficient in training. You need to be efficient in production. And, it needs to be good enough. It doesn't need to be perfect. So just imagine that you have a robot with 4 arms. How the hell are you going to train it? You can't use teleoperation then because humans only have 2 hands. You don't have any video clips of existing workers because no one has 4 hands. At best, you could use a Pokemon clip of fighting, but that's useless. So, you have to focus on the part of making the thing possible rather than what would be the best possible output to expect from a robot.
Excellent. Excellent insight, guys. This is amazing. This has been amazing. Very good. Any other comments, questions on this topic at hand? Any other insights that people may have? It seems like you're getting a lot of good points in YouTube live chat. Edward?
Yeah, hi, and thanks for bringing me up. I think the 4-arm, 6-arm, legs, whatever, that's just stupid, in my opinion. We're trying to train off of humans. We're trying to make something human-like, not make some weird, bizarre creature to do other things. We're just trying to duplicate the best of human beings. The best dancers, the best cooks, the best whatever are all human. They're not insects.
Thank you. And there's also the aspect, like we discussed in AI amateurs. In my opinion, this is my personal opinion. The Optimus program will be limited by acceptance by the society, by humans, and there is something to be said about looking like a human. So it's going to be a balancing act that Tesla has to do. How much you want to look like a human, whether it's for training purposes, for acceptance purposes, but also to limit. You also don't want to have a face that you can't even distinguish from a human. So that's an interesting discussion we can have at another time. Neil?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that ultimately, I think data is the limitation. The reason I think Elon's already thought about all of this 100 times over, and he was like, you know what? The only thing I can get data for and actually, manifest and materialize is a human robot. It would be great to have a number of different purpose-built bots to do things, right? But given the limitations we have with AI and technology right now, you have to deal with the training data that you have. So the humanoid robot is
Thank you.
the first step. Yep, thanks.
Thank you. We don't want to run around circles on the same point.
And we are actually getting to the point that Tesla wants to use clips from the real world to train its robotic fleet. Because after a point you can't have VR operators sitting in San Francisco, basically doing tasks all day in a virtual world. While that is a very pure data source, it is a very good data source. it's not scalable. And when the topic of scale comes, Tesla will most likely look to outsource the work to Africa and Asia. We will see maybe outsourcing the work to another company or doing it themselves. They'll basically try to just set up a whole warehouse where they're recording people doing things like laundry, cooking, anything that you can imagine doing yourself. And that way they'll train the robot to a much better extent using AI.
Thank you for your flexibility. And in the meantime, the YouTube live chat sparring is growing exponentially between Keenan and Kevin King. And now Ken has jumped in as well. EV1 is also saying his word. There's a whole nother debate going on YouTube live chat. I love it. Keep it going, guys. Let's go to Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, to keep my thought unique here, I'll touch on the manufacturing side, right? I love all these ideas, purpose-built bots. I just got back from the largest trade show in the world where you could see 100 types of different robotics that are being used for individual tasks. We already have that. We don't have a single humanoid robot out there that is being mass produced. That, Tesla's the best place for this to happen, right? So as an investor, my thought is streamline operations, streamline manufacturing, keep it simple, and then go on from there.
This is great. I love it. Dallas is clearly paying attention to the feedback I sent to the DM group for each speaker after every episode. I don't listeners don't know how much work the speakers put in every single day to make this space better and better. And Dallas, with that tying into the perspective from an investor, a new perspective to the discussion. Dallas, great job. Thank you. Uzi?
Yeah, I don't know if we're done talking about humanoid form and humanity. Is that right?
Go ahead.
Yeah, I took an evolutionary biology class, and the main takeaway is that the human form is generalized. And when you want a robot to be able to, I think the end goal for Optimus is to be on Mars and to be able to act autonomously without, teleoperation. So if that's the case, you want a generalized robot that is able to perform the tasks a human can. And I don't think we need the specifics that a human can climb a tree or can go swimming. I think that the point is understood. The most important part is getting the brain to that point, so that when SpaceX is capable, you could have Optimus constructing cities on Mars with tools like a human could.
Very good, thank you. Yeah, we have another great insight in YouTube live chat from Dave's Bits, who says Optimus should look friendly and human-like. Tesla first showed Optimus making a heart. Many people are underestimating the importance of this. Plus, you want to be able to scale to millions. I agree. Ellie?
Two things. First, I want to say that if you're one of those creatures that has two hands, please use one of them to like the button and consider to subscribe to the channel. The second thing, I would like to see Optimus to be able to go into the deeps, basically waterproof, and to be able to, be autonomous under the water and all that stuff. Thank you.
Ellie, that must be the smoothest call to action in YouTube history. Thank you very much. Alexander?
Yeah, I agree with Uzi. The brain is really important to send Optimus to Mars. For example, you can't teleoperate a humanoid robot from Earth to Mars. The latency is too high. You could say, bend down, grab rock, and then you had to wait for 45 minutes to see if it really grabbed the rock or not.
Alexander, why would you say bend down to Optimus?
What?
I'm kidding. This is a rhetorical question. Neil?
Yeah, I'd just like to say, I think the humanoid form is effective because it escaped limbic resonance. It was able to delay gratification and use intelligence, right? And so ultimately that's great, but that doesn't mean we're the best at doing everything physically. So I think, I'd just like to reiterate that I think there are multiple robotic formats that could accomplish tasks extremely more efficiently than humans if we only had the compute to deal with it. So the software has a hardware problem, I think, again.
Inflexity.
Yeah, and just to like sum up the topic of why you don't want to have so many different forms of a robot, is that first of all, Tesla is focusing on a mass market. That's clear. But if you're looking for customized solutions, you're going to go for startups. The market size for something like a spider robot, it's going to be less than 100 million in valuation. For something like a different kind of form that is better than humans, it's going to be even lesser. Yeah, it's not a topic of why we are not building it because it isn't going to scale. These companies already exist. If you go to University of California in San Diego today, you will actually see robots that they're developing with the goal in mind that one day when they get to space, the robot will travel by jumping 50 feet into the air and it will travel maybe 1 mile at a single leap. Yeah, these robots already exist. We just don't see them in our lives. NASA already has a spider robot. The labs already have robots using basically flexible limbs. You have multiple springs in them to utilize what the human form can't achieve, but they are never going to scale because they can't be mass produced and they're not going to fit into society.
Very good. And on that note, Keenan also says insect design is probably optimal for insect-sized robots. Incredible amount of insight in YouTube live chat and on the speaker board at the same time. Really loving this discussion. Let's go to Edward.
Yeah, I understand where neural net Neil is getting to as far as like Tesla may be doing something in the future, but we're really talking a decade plus before they get into anything besides Optimus as their only project because of that manufacturing side, not because of the compute, not because of anything else, but except for making the same parts over and over again at massive scale, massive repetition, and high quality. And you just get into too much complexities, in my opinion, if you try to start making a bunch of other products.
Neil.
And I would just like to add, guys, ultimately, the complexity of a robot, what do I say, a robot form factor is based on the ability to compute its value versus its task, right? And these are things that we actually just can't do right now. But eventually AI does this. AI says, you know what? If I could make a robot like this, it would work 5 times faster than, the human or the robot that did that. So I'd just like to say, this is where Elon's going. This gets really crazy. As soon as robots understand robotics and they can start to understand freedom of movement, and other abilities, this gets crazy quick. Thanks.
Okay, and Justin in YouTube live chat says, all trolling aside, after generality is in place, interchangeable arms or hands for more task specific, even quick connect appendages on a tool belt. Same way back home equipment can swap out a bucket with an impact hammer. Great insight. Tim Flexity.
And one more thing is that Neil put it quite well that we are going to have multiple types of robots in the future once we have the robots and the AI itself learn how to make them. But one more thing about form factor is that the human form isn't actually as limited as we think. We as humans are limited. That's not because of our form factor. While that is a contributing factor, we are made up of bones, we are made up of tissues, and we are made up of cells that can't handle that much tension. They can't handle that much wear and tear. And at a point, you will basically, have a fracture. But that's not the case with a humanoid robot. You have an entire field of material scientists that are looking to make as many new materials, alloys as possible that can improve these robots. So, you could have a robot in the future where you replace the wrist with a better material. So basically that it can move 360 degrees, it can climb up anywhere. And that is something a human cannot hope for. So, humanoid robots are much less limited than the humans are.
Thank you, Dallas, and now we'll take Omar's take on the matter.
Yeah, I think a lot of this can get a little complex, but what isn't complex is going to YouTube and liking the video, because
I love it. Our speakers are getting more and more creative with the call to actions. I'm loving it. Yeah, it is very important. If you're watching this on YouTube, please hit the like button and subscribe. This is how we can grow the channel, bring it to new viewers, and bring you even more insightful discussions in the future. It's very important that you all do that. And if you're on X, you can go do that on YouTube as well through the link at the top of our screens. And or you can like and share this space with your followers. I would highly appreciate that. Thank you very much. Omar, welcome. How are you?
Hey, doing great.
Great. We just had a great conversation in the first half hour led by Ailey and Dallas about geopolitics in the Middle East, as well as Kamala Harris's interview on Fox News. That was very insightful. Thank you guys for doing that. And now we jumped into Optimus discussion, the Tesla AI video shared on Optimus. Omar, what are your thoughts on the video that Tesla shared?
Yeah, we saw some pretty incredible autonomous functionality. I think it's pretty clear that Optimus is leading the industry in terms of the autonomy the bot is demonstrating. And obviously, Tesla's massive 100,000 GPU cluster, their experience getting FSD to an insane level of reliability, these are enormous assets for the Optimus team. As a matter of fact, in the video, you saw the bot autonomously performing some functions that we saw at the event. And when we saw the bot doing this at the event, everyone said, oh, well, obviously it's teleoperated. The bot can't just pick up an object and give it to a person. It can't just serve a drink. Well, they actually showed that it can. And my understanding is at the event, it was sort of human supervised, human assisted at times, but that it was a lot more autonomous than people realized. The bots were walking, balancing themselves on their own. Many of these things, it was a human talking through just to understand and make sure it was taking the order correctly. But then the human would just say, okay, watermelon drink, strawberry drink, whatever. And the robot can actually do this by itself. They showed it charging itself, which is huge because it means it can go work on the factory, go charge itself, and then get back to work. And when you saw Optimus getting back to work and starting to put those cells into trays, the light bulb just sort of goes off of what the factory of the future looks like with these things. So if you were one of the haters who said, oh, it's all fake, Optimus isn't autonomous, it's just a guy controlling the robot, you've got a little bit of egg on your face after this video, I have to say.
Great. Thank you very much, Omar. Omar, what do you think is next for the Optimus project in terms of hardware or software? What is the next breakthrough that we want to see from the Optimus program?
Yeah, I think Optimus is really at a point where the software is still at a very early level. These are obviously more tech demonstrations than, something that's actually economically valuable, especially if you look at the speed of the robot. So I would say, just make it operate faster. You can see they had to speed up the video when it's putting the cells into trays just because it's operating so slowly. I think really the use case to focus on is industrial applications within the factory and making it legitimately economically viable within the factory. Where it actually makes sense to buy one of these things. Right now, I mean, this thing's got to cost what, $100,000 per unit, and it's the slowest worker you've ever seen in your life. Now, granted, even if it's slow and it can run 24 hours, that might be something. But improve the software. Just eat your own dog food. Just get it to make economic sense within their own factory. not just be something that they're doing just to test the robot, but actually, hey, this is actually the most cost efficient way to do this task. And then after that, start selling it to other companies. I think their partnership with Frito-Lay and PepsiCo and others on the Semi could be a good framework for how they do that, where, hey, actually, why not go to those Tesla Semi customers, Frito-Lay and PepsiCo, and say, you guys want to buy a robot to help load the car or load the truck or something like that, or even just stand at the gate and help people or whatever. And that, I think, is the first use case. You can still have the price point maybe in the $50,000 to $100,000 range, sell it to other commercial customers, and that'll help you get the scale you need, manufacture more of them to eventually drive the cost down to the consumer level.
Okay, very good. I see we have a bunch of hands, and this is a topic I actually want to dig into a little bit. What are going to be the first few use cases for Optimus? Obviously, we know Tesla is going to test the Optimus in its own factories, eat its own dog food, as Omar put it. But on the other hand, as I join other spaces through the macro analyst account on macro topics, I sometimes get Tesla questions, and people are very adamant that Optimus is not going to be in factories, that factory functions are best served by specific purpose-built robots that are stationary, like robotic arms, for example. So let's have a deeper discussion on this topic a little bit. Let's kind of see what people have to say on this topic. Let's go to Alexander, our director of robotics. Alexander, go ahead.
Yeah, those purpose-built robots that you use in the factory with like optical recognition and stuff, that is like a $200,000 solution. And if Optimus is gonna be like $30,000, it's easy to choose what solution you go with.
Okay, so Alexander says, because Tesla will build Optimus in high volume, it's going to be able to reduce the cost per unit and be able to do several functions at a factory at a much lower cost than a purpose-built robotic arm. Thank you, Alexander. Uzi.
Optimus is going to be a humanoid, right? It's a humanoid robot. So it's going to take the human's role with manual labor at the factory. That means you will still continue to have these massive claws that are producing cars, for instance. But then you will have Optimus doing the pick and place, taking the role of the human, or any variables within the factory floor, Optimus should be able to handle. In the future, though, yeah, Optimus will grow up in the factory, but the majority of its value will be seen at coffee shops or in hospitality or industries where picking and placing and precision hand movements is mundane labor but highly rewarded.
Thank you. So Uzi says Optimus will play a role in factories, but it's more of a training ground, and its true value is going to be outside of factories. Let's go to Ellie.
Yeah, thanks. Not to mention the fact that basically those machines in factories can kill the person in a second, and basically more Optimus can be more work and to be less dangerous on the people that actually do work in the factory. And we can see how people using Optimus in the real life can make tons of money just by having Optimus. Not to mention the fact that it will replace human and do all the work for like less cost.
Thank you, Ellie. Dallas.
Yeah, so the industry I'm in, I spend a ton of time in factories and around heavy machinery that is a lot of times robotically operated, but people have the wrong impression of that. So like someone said earlier, these things are $1 million pieces of equipment and they only do one task. And the real problem is when we bring these into our accounts, we have to bring in a programmer who sits on the assembly line and programs that machine or that robot for weeks and weeks and weeks at a time. And if any one thing has to be changed, they have to come back out and reprogram that robot. So that's something that you need to keep in mind when comparing purpose-built robots and Optimus.
Okay, I saw Alexander gave you a thumbs down over there. Alexander, was it a fat thumb thing or do you actually disagree?
Yeah, only on the weeks. It usually modern solution don't take weeks to program, but you still have to program it.
Thank you. Neural Neil.
Yeah, and ultimately, guys, here's the real deal. Not only don't you program it, you don't even program it for the physical limitations that you're dealing with. It's like, listen, we've got 12 different bots that we can program to make this happen, maybe 100, maybe 1,000 different bots. Ultimately, the AI, again, will take this over. Control programming is important. Don't get me wrong, physics matters, but ultimately, this just goes away. And it hurts,
Thank
but it's
you.
true.
Edward. Edward. Finflexity.
Yeah, so this question, there are a lot of robots in the world today, but in the majority, let's say that robotics adoption isn't all that high that we think it is. So, especially in Asian countries, robotics adoption in factories is quite low. Uh, I think the global average, or the Asian average at least, is 25% of robotics adoption in manufacturing. And you know, a more indicative figure is that for every 10,000 employees working in factories globally, we only have 151 robots. Even assuming that a robot can basically do the work of 10 employees, that means that we still have an 85% occupancy of employees as to robots in the ratio. So humanoids can replace the human employees as well. They can also replace purpose-built robots and more. And one thing that we are seeing in the industry of robotics is that, for example, there is a company in, I think, Austria or Australia. They are building a robot for bricklaying, basically. So trying to build homes or buildings and just laying down bricks. That robot is 20 feet in its width and about 10 feet in its height. And the only purpose that it holds is that it is laying down bricks. It is not laying down any cement. It's just aligning the bricks for a worker to just basically put cement on it and to start building the actual structure. So, humanoids can replace a lot of these robots, and humanoids can replace basically every single human that is working in a factory today.
Thank you, Finflexity. It's good to have your expertise and your insights in this space. We're going to spend 5 more minutes on this topic, and then we're going to switch topics. I want to get Omar's views in the next section about Jensen's comments around Elon speed versus MKBHD's comments about Elon time. So that's the next section. Let's wrap this up in a couple of minutes. Alexander?
Yeah, I just thought that maybe it makes sense for Tesla to kind of offer some of the capabilities of Optimus Brain on the API to kind of make it easier for like traditional industrial robots to do a useful work.
Finflexity?
The API pricing wouldn't bring in as much of revenue and would probably defer revenue from coming in from the robotics hardware. So it's better to keep it closed source and just in a lab in Tesla.
Thank you. All right. Why don't we wrap this discussion up with a question that we're going to go around and everyone give your views. Okay. Let's say in 2030, and I expect the same from folks in YouTube live chat. Please listen to the question and answer in the YouTube live chat. Let's say in 2030, there are 1 million Optimus, 1 million Optimus in 2030. I would like everyone on the speaker board to give what portion of that 1 million will be in factories and warehouses versus households. Okay. What percent of the 1 million Optimus fleet in 2030 are going to be in factories plus warehouses versus households? Let's start with Uzi. Uzi, what do you think the percentage breakdown is going to be of that 1 million Optimus fleet?
Well, I think factories is much different than warehouses, right? I think warehouses fits the pick and place argument. So if it was just factories, I'd have a much more like heavily weighted towards families in that scenario. But if it's warehouses and factories, I'd say like 60%. Wait, you just said families? Just to clarify.
households. So one bucket is factories plus warehouses versus homes.
Yeah, probably 70% factories and warehouses because of the weighting towards warehouses, and then 30% homes.
Okay, Wessex.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify or ask to clarify. I think you just did, though. Basically, you're asking if it's commercial or residential, I believe. And the way I
Correct.
think it would be 50-50 when there's about 1 million out there, but it'll be trending heavily towards residential because the TAM is much bigger. But I think they're going to scale commercial initially at a higher rate, and then eventually we'll see the residential piece just dwarf commercial.
Very good. So Wessex says initially commercial applications will take hold. And then as Tesla scales residential applications in 2030, they're going to cross at about 50-50. Interesting viewpoint. Let's go to Finflexity. Finflexity, what do you think?
Was the number a billion or a million?
1 million in 2030.
I would say more than 95% towards factories and maybe less than 1% in residential.
Interesting. Finflexity, do you agree with Wessex's view, though, that residential will ramp later on, and that's going to be the primary applications later on in the following decades?
Maybe. So I think that the world population is 7 billion. You divide that by 4, you get 1.2, you get 1.3 billion households basically. So that would be 1.3 billion. But I think there is a much larger TAM for robotics in the industrial setting. Then in that case, it would really depend on whether Figure, Tesla, Agility, all of these companies are trying to segment themselves or offer their offerings to both of these markets. In case that there is competition in both markets, I think then yes, we could see a 50-50 thing for Tesla. If there isn't competition and you go for specialization in one market, then you could have a larger disparity between the two markets.
Okay, thank you, Finflexity. Just as a point of record, the world population today is 8.2 billion people. You just killed 1 billion people in one sentence. Congratulations. Let's go to who wants to guess next? Neil, you're next. What do you think will be the breakdown between commercial versus residential applications in 2030, assuming 1 million humanoids at that time?
Wait a minute, that was pretty quick. So the can you just repeat that, Yaman? Say it again.
Come on, I asked it 5 times already.
Man, that was quick.
Hustle Town, let's go. Hustle Town.
All right, it'll all come down to economies of scale, how expensive this spot is. So I'm going 99% it'll be warehouse and factories because they'll be the only ones that'll be able to afford it.
99% commercial due to affordability. Wessex, and then let's get Omar's view on this.
Yeah, you got to wonder what the commercial space looks like down the road. For example, if I have an Optimus at my house right now, I could say, hey, go out in the woods, chop down some trees, cut it up, and make a hut for me, or make some kind of little shelter for my lawn equipment or something. I don't need to go to the store anymore. I'm essentially 3D printing with a robot. So I think the way we look at things now is going to, or the way we look at things down the road is going to be very different than the way we look at things today versus, or with commercial versus residential.
Dallas.
Yeah, I think it'd be 95% of those 1 billion, or I'm sorry, 1 million robots will be in the commercial application and 5% will be residential.
Edward.
Yes, I was thinking about it. You guys brought up a good point. When it comes to commercial, how many Tesla vehicles are commercially owned versus how many are owned by the public? I don't think the commercial space is going to jump on this as much as you guys think. Maybe anti-Elon or whatever reasons, or maybe Amazon's going to build their own or whoever. But I just think that that's something to consider.
Haley.
Yeah, thanks. I think it's going to go and be 50-50. And I think it's going to go 50-50 because Elon Musk wants the bot to be at houses and he wants to be viral with Optimus. And if it's affordable and if it's a product complete, no doubt that the independent will be I mean, the household will be much a bigger market, obviously.
Okay. Now, before we go to Omar, let me just summarize everyone's views here. So, generally speaking, people are expecting commercial applications to be first applications for Optimus. And Tesla's going to start with commercial applications after training Optimus in its own factories. And then we'll ramp residential applications in the coming years after, following years after that. But there's some disagreement between among the speakers about when that crossover is going to be. But generally speaking, people expect in the next 5 years, commercial applications first, and then residential applications ramping faster. Let's go to Omar. Omar, what do you think? In 2030, 1 million Optimus fleet, what do you think will be the breakdown between commercial versus residential applications?
Well, I mean, you're already seeing commercial applications, so I think it's pretty obvious that's happening first. But it's kind of like asking, what's going to be the breakdown of computers in offices versus homes? These things are going to be everywhere. Okay. And I mean, to say someone might not buy it because they're an Elon hater. Okay. Imagine one company has a $30,000 Tesla Cybercab manufactured by Optimus using the unbox process. And another company, because they don't like Elon, decides to hire UAW workers instead. Which company do you think is going to survive? And which company do you think is going to die? They simply, won't be able to afford hating Elon. And, I'm sure there's going to be other robots on the market too. But these are really going to be everywhere. They're going to change the economics of production. They're going to provide enormous value in the home. So, I mean, what's the breakdown of humans in home versus the office? They're everywhere, right? And that's really what I think we're seeing with Optimus 2. It's going to be an incredibly general purpose device. I mean, you could even have the same Optimus work in a factory, then go home, do a task in the home, go to a, store, do a task in a store. You can rearrange them. Those KUKA robots that are nailed down into the floor, where it takes big industrial equipment to move them around and set them up, and they're fixed in place. The Optimus can move, they can rearrange themselves. A production line that's producing a Cybercab right now could be reconfigured in a flash to produce a totally different type of vehicle. So I'm not sure I know what percentage will be which. I think commercial will be first. But I really see these as universal general purpose devices like the personal computer.
Right, thank you. That was a great discussion. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us for that discussion. We're going to switch topics in the next 20 minutes. We have 20 minutes left. In the next 20 minutes, I want to discuss Elon speed versus Elon time. Before that, a quick shout out to our sponsors. And if you're on X, please take a moment to hit the like button on YouTube channel. You can reach that channel through the link at the top of our screens. It is with your help we're going to grow and bring you even better content. We're working hard to reach 1,000 likes per episode, which would make these spaces sustainable longer term. Every like really makes a difference. A quick shout out to our sponsors in the meantime. Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Joa, your go-to source for premium Tesla accessories. At Joa, you'll find innovative charging solutions, stylish interior upgrades, protective gear, cutting-edge tech add-ons. Use promo code TSLA Live at checkout to receive a special discount on your next purchase. Visit joa-life.com today to explore their full range of products. Thank you, Joa, for supporting Tesla Live and Tesla community. And Tesla Live is proudly sponsored by Paymore, your trusted destination for buying, selling, trading, and recycling electronics. Pay more, you can buy the latest gadgets at greatest prices, sell or trade your used electronics for cash or store credit, or recycle old and broken devices responsibly, helping to reduce e-waste. Join Paymore Revolution today. Visit one of their stores near you or check them out online at paymore.com. Thank you, Joa, and thank you, Paymore, for supporting Tesla Live and Tesla community. All right, Omar. Jensen the founder and CEO of NVIDIA, had recent comments about Elon's speed, that XAI brought up their data cluster or GPU cluster in 19 days as opposed to 4 years norm. Can you give us some context? Where is that 4 years norm coming from?
Well, that's just coming from other major cloud service providers, other major tech companies. They just don't move with this type of speed and urgency. So, fast forward or sort of rewind back a couple years when ChatGPT first came onto the market. And do you remember everyone said, "Oh my God, OpenAI, they're going to take over the world. This ChatGPT is so incredible." And look at what has happened to OpenAI. They didn't own their own compute. They got it from Microsoft. Microsoft has not been fast enough to build out the compute. Sam Altman's now looking at expanding that build out himself. Most of the executives of OpenAI have left the company as it looks into transitioning to a for-profit company. And meanwhile, here comes Elon Musk, one of the original founders of OpenAI, and they've caught up. They've created a Grok virtual assistant that in blind tests scores virtually on par with GPT-4o. And when you look at their compute cluster, it's even bigger than the compute cluster OpenAI has. So Jensen, I mean, he's just amazed, right? He's worked with every NVIDIA customer that's built out a training cluster. He's seen them all. He's heard of exactly what the process is like for all of these Fortune 500 companies. He's never seen what Elon and the XAI team have done. So look at how quickly they caught up to a state of the art LLM. And now they're setting their sights on even exceeding it, even beating GPT 4o. And then you think someone's going to catch them in AI and self-driving when they're building out 100,000 GPU cluster, when they have Dojo, when they're looking at expanding to 200,000 on the XAI side, and I bet also on the Tesla side once the first 100,000 are up. I mean, in order to catch them, you have to be able to move faster than them. And moving faster than an Elon Musk company is not an easy task.
Omar, let me dig a little deeper into this. So I really want to understand the 19 days versus 4 years comparison. Are these even, I mean, it's such a stark difference that it makes me question, are these even apples to apples comparison?
I mean, I think he obviously, 4 years is in terms of like a data center project from inception to actually being live. Yes, they do take years to do. Um they were able to pull it together very quickly, which I think is very impressive. But if, you already have a data center, you're bringing it in, it may be less than that. But I think XAI just really kind of looked at this from first principles and said, how do we get this done as fast as possible? They bought the data center themselves. They bought the compute themselves. They dealt directly with NVIDIA and they said, let's get this up now. Now, compare that to what OpenAI's process is like. So, OpenAI does a deal with Microsoft. Microsoft agrees to build some compute. They slowly procure the compute and then they get some equity in OpenAI. It's an at length thing. There's bureaucracy, there's communication between two companies. There's two companies with different goals in terms of their profitability. OpenAI wants to build out as fast as possible. Microsoft needs to build out as slow as they can manage to manage their expenses. So, and people just don't tend to, it's a lot of telephone, right? There's a lot of different layers. There's the Azure team managing the data centers, there's the OpenAI team running workloads on them. I think Elon really looked at this problem and he said the production of AI models is fundamentally a function of the training compute, right? If the model is sort of a Tesla car, then the training cluster is the factory that produces the car. So he said, this is actually the key. It's the training cluster. And unlike OpenAI, who's just buying from Microsoft, which is much more expensive, we're actually just going to build the training cluster. We're going to own it ourselves. We're going to raise $6 billion, build it, do it all in house, and vertically integrated in a way where we control the building, we control the power supply. And that's how they got it done so much faster. They looked at it from a first principles approach. They said, what is the most important thing here? And we're going to actually do that ourselves and make sure we're not dealing with contractors and bureaucracy and long lead times. We're just going to do what we need to do to get it up and running as fast as possible.
Thank you. That makes a lot of sense. Finflexity, go ahead.
So typically for a smaller scale data center project, you would typically take 12 to 24 months. The 4-year timeline is, more, it makes more sense if you think that the XAI supercluster is a hyperscaler project. So technically it's the largest of its kind today. So in that sense, it would take 4 years. I think that's what Jensen means. And when you're commissioning a project for Google or for Amazon, you have 7 levels of teams that are going to be working on it, from the C-suite to the analyst level. They are going to be conducting meetings with McKinsey. They're going to meet with Bain. They're going to talk about how this project is going to impact the financials, how the project is going to sell. And that takes a lot of time. But when you're in a startup, you can Elon basically can say, uh, engineers, you guys decide how you want to make the thing. Everything else will be taken care of, and we are going to get this thing as soon as possible. And that's the basic gist of it.
Thank you, Finflexity. Any other views on this topic? Please request to speak. Let's compare and contrast to MKBHD's view that Tesla will not achieve the timelines that Elon put up on the robot event in terms of autonomous cars and cyber cabs. He even said that if Tesla achieves that, he will shave his head. He talked about Elon time. Omar, do you think this guy is going to have to shave his head?
I think he's going to have to shave his head, yeah.
How do you compare that to what Jensen is saying about Elon's speed? How do you contrast NKBHD's skepticism about Tesla's timelines versus Jensen's and authority in the space complimenting Elon on Elon's speed?
Well, because Elon is such a ruthless competitor, there are a lot of efforts to frame the issue in ways that make him look like an idiot. You can say, oh, well, he's been promising autonomy for so long. But then you look at the other companies, you look at Ford, they said, we're so excited to launch our autonomous service in 2021. 2021 came, they said, we're going to have to delay the launch of our autonomous service until 2022 because of the pandemic. Well, that wasn't really the reason. They just lied through their teeth. Their autonomy just sucks, right? But of course, nobody goes after them for this because, well, they wouldn't want to risk those Ford advertising dollars. Tesla, on the other hand, is the company that's actually delivered autonomy to people. Is it perfect? No, but they've been delivering products for years, making it better and better. And nobody really mentions that. They go, it's never going to happen. They don't talk about, for example, I just posted a video of Waymo versus Tesla this morning. I encourage everyone to go watch it. Not only did the Waymo take 50% longer, it couldn't go on the highway. It was, watch the steering wheel. It's more jerky. Watch how it randomly slows down in certain places where other people didn't. The Tesla did the drive perfectly. It did it at a fraction of the cost of the Waymo without any remote supervision. And it did it faster. It's just a better product, right? And you see so much of this framing of the issue. I mean, the reason Marquez is going to have to shave his head is because of exactly what Jensen said. That speed in building out the training cluster is exactly why they're going to continue to shock everybody. And I think what people don't realize is the cyber cab from reveal to production is actually going to be much shorter than the Cybertruck from reveal to production. And a lot of people are conditioned by the pandemic. Things kind of slowed down, global supply chain slowed down, and they're expecting another Cybertruck scenario where, it's really 2029 before we see these things on the road. I think it could be less than half that time potentially.
Thank you. Small X.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just to say about Marquez, I've loved the guy for a long time. I've been a huge fan of his product reviews. He's a great guy. But let's look at this. Like, the guy just endorsed Kamala. He's got photos with Oprah at a Kamala rally. They put him on the cover of Time as an AI influencer, and then he's at this event pretending like he can't tell that these Optimus bots are human operated, which is the most obvious thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I honestly feel like we might not be able to take this guy as credibly as we used to. I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on that, but I'm calling BS on it.
Uzi.
Yeah, I didn't want to engage in the character assassination route, but I do agree. I think there is a possible narrative or angle that he is low key politicizing himself, and it's possible because of Elon's political activities that there is that narrative. But he's been a great tech reviewer, especially with the Cybertruck too. And I think he was sitting in the Cybertruck. So there's a lot of irony in that video. And I think at the end of the day, the Tesla community will rally to see FSD or the Cybercab be ready by that point because we'd love to see him shave his head. But yeah, I think there's something a little off here.
What I heard is the Tesla AI team has a poster in their offices right now of him with his head shaved. They're taking this as a challenge, and they're going to make sure he shaves his head because it'll be great publicity.
That would be amazing. All right, let's go to Bradford. Bradford, what do you think on the topic?
Yeah, at most they were issuing commands to the Optimus, but it was not operated much at all by human gestures. I could tell from the video. I was standing right in front of it. It had these reset points where between movements it would reset to a certain spot. So it was somewhat robotic there. Whereas if a human was doing that, it would have these reset points.
Okay, thank you. We talked about this earlier in the space. For those of you who just joined, first half hour of the space was about geopolitics and Kamala Harris' interview on Fox News. The second half of the space was about Alexander's take on Tesla AI's video about Optimus. So we discussed this at length. The topic right now is Elon speed versus Elon time. So to bring it back to that point, Omar, what do you think?
Yeah, I think when you saw the Cybertruck unveil in 2019 or the Model 3 reveal in 2016, there were, I think in the case of the Cybertruck, one or two prototypes. I think in the case of the Model 3, there was not more than 4 prototypes at the event. And they weren't giving any rides in them. They had 20 Cybercabs at the event, 20. And, it was kind of interesting. Someone said, well, actually, a lot of components of this car are already in production. I was like, huh, it's a really interesting comment. What do you mean they're already in production? I think a lot of these pieces actually share some commonality with the vehicles they're starting production of next year that they say are going to use elements of the next gen platform. So it's easy to look at this and say, oh, there's no steering wheel. That's so far away. But I think they're actually, just as evidenced by the number of units there that are functional, much further along on this than other unveils we've typically seen. I think they've resisted unveiling it for a while just because it does feel so far off. But just looking at the supply chain side, looking at the number of units at the event, it seems like they're much closer to production than other
Yeah.
unveils that we've seen.
All right, maybe we'll get some news on the earnings release, which we're going to talk about tomorrow. Okay, let's go to Finflexity. Get his views, and then we have only 5 minutes left. So Finflexity, please keep it short, and then we're going to go around the board to get a yes or no whether MKBHD Marquez is going to shave his head. Finflexity, go ahead.
Yeah, I think he's going to avoid shaving his head because when he made that statement, he was basically trying to put in as many conditionals as he could regarding what they wanted to deliver.
All right. Yes or no? Will Marquez shave his head? Please let me know on YouTube live chat what your thought is. Uzi, yes or no?
Yes.
Bradford, yes or no?
Yes, and as I said yesterday, Tesla was forced to
thank
cut the
you.
remark short. And that
Thank you. Your sound quality is really bad. Sorry. West 6, yes or no?
No.
Edward, yes or no?
Hell yeah.
Molex, yes or no?
Yes.
Finflexity, yes or no?
No.
Town, yes or no?
Yes.
Alexander,
Nah.
Omar.
Yes.
All right. Looks like the yeses won. That Marquez will shave his head. However, we have some dissenting members from Alexander to West 6 to Finflexity. Duly noted your dissenting opinions. We have a balanced board, guys. I love this. We had a great discussion today about Optimus on 2 accounts. I'm going to post that section on a standalone basis on YouTube. So YouTube going forward is going to have 20 to 30 minute videos in addition to the live stream that is 2 hours long daily. If people cannot listen to the daily 2-hour streams, they can either go to Patreon, get a summary of it on a daily basis, or watch the 20 to 30 minute videos on these segments on YouTube. Omar, why don't you close us off? Oh, Omar just dropped. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. That was a great discussion. I will chat with you all tomorrow. Thank you to all speakers. That was an excellent, excellent day. And it's only going to improve from here on out. Thank you. And I'll chat with you all tomorrow. And thank you, Hollis, for the $10 super chat. She says, stay on course, stay the course. Thank you.